the impacts of climate change. The impacts from climate change are happening now. These impacts extend well beyond an increase in temperature, affecting ecosystems and communities around the world. Things that we depend upon and value, that is water, energy, transportation, wildlife, agriculture, ecosystems and human health are experiencing the effects of a changing climate. Global climate change has already had observable effects on the environment. Glaciers have shrunk, ice on rivers and lakes is breaking up earlier. Plants and animal ranges have shifted and trees are flowering sooner. Climate change caused by the global increase in temperature triggers multiple negative effects on the planet. These effects interrelate with each other and increase their violence, putting at risk the species that inhabit the earth, including the humans. The global increase in temperatures can influence the physical, biological and human systems. Variations in the physical systems on the planet can be observed in the melting of the poles, which at the same time cause glacial regression, snow melting, warming and thawing of permafrost, flooding in rivers and lakes, droughts in rivers and lakes, coastal erosion, sea level, sea and extreme natural phenomena. In the biological systems, there is a death of flora and fauna in the terrestrial and marine ecosystems, wildlife and flora and fauna displacement, search for better life conditions. In human systems, the climate change affects and destroys crops and food production, causes disease and death, destruction and loss of economic livelihoods, and migrations of climate refugees. The past decade has seen an astonishing run of record breaking storms, forest fires, droughts, coral bleaching, heat waves and floods around the world with just 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit of global warming. The impact of climate change will never be evenly distributed among the peoples of the world. In addition, impacts are likely to vary between and within countries. Thus, not all developing or developed countries will necessarily have benefits or damages in unison. Climate change-induced disasters in East Asia cities affect their economic growth and poverty reduction efforts. Marginal populations are worst hit because they build on vulnerable lands and are more dependent on sectors affected by disaster for their livelihoods and have less capacity and resources to recover quickly. Urban poor suffer the most, so they also have to stand the gain and the most preventive action. Global average temperatures are expected to increase by about 2 to 13 degree Fahrenheit by the end of the century. They may not sound like a lot, so what's the big deal? The problem is that small changes in global average temperature can lead to a really large change in the environment. The session throws light on some of the expected changes, such as there will always be natural variability and some places and some years will be warmer and cooler than average. In general, however, summers will get hotter not only because of higher temperatures but also because humidity will increase. That means that heat waves like the one that killed 35,000 people in Europe in 2003 will become more common. On the plus side, winters will be warmer in many places, reducing the heat bills. And the number of days with frost is likely to decrease. A warming planet means continuing changes in its ecosystems. As the oceans absorb more carbon dioxide, the chemistry of the ocean changes, putting many sea creatures at risk. The IPCC projects that by 2100, the pH of ocean will drop to its lowest point in the least 20 million years. As temperatures get milder, mosquitoes, ticks, rodents, and other disease carriers will expand their range, particularly in developing countries. Warmer temperatures will also mean less snowfall at certain latitudes because more will fall as rain and the snow that does not fall will melt faster. This would affect the people living in the areas that depend on snow-fed reservoirs for water. The IPCC projects increase of 5 to 20% in the crop yields in the first decades of this century. But the crops will be more prone to failure if climate variability increases and precipitation becomes less dependable. And ironically, with higher temperatures comes an increased potential for killing freezes. This is because the plants start growing earlier, making them more vulnerable to the sudden springtime cold spells. The session then turns to the moot point, that is the responses that may be adopted. Integrating mitigation and adaptation would work wonders. Key concepts related to climate change mitigation are discussed in the session, highlighting increased sequestration, low carbon development, and green economy. The session further dwells upon global carbon budget. The global community has committed itself to hold the warming below 2 degrees centigrade to prevent the dangerous climate change. The 213 IPCC report on physical science basis of climate change provides a budget approach to this goal, looking at the total allowable carbon dioxide emission levels to meet the 2 degree centigrade target. If annual emissions continue to grow as in the past years, adopting the business as usual scenario, the carbon budget will be exhausted in the next 3 decades. The session further builds upon the Paris Agreement, that is COP15, that adopted an agreement to keep the temperature increase below 2 degrees centigrade. The mitigation contributions to help the global community reach this goal were part of each country's intended nationally determined contribution, which is depicted through the map which shows the countries who have submitted the INDCs besides other categories. The session also throws some positivities. While climate change mitigation is often discussed in terms of constraints, there are actually various environmental, economic, and social co-benefits that may arise as a result of mitigation actions. For example, forest conservation limits the greenhouse gas emissions while at the same time protecting biodiversity and ecosystems. The promotion of renewable energies can lead to increased local employment due to the decentralized energy production. Reducing the greenhouse gas emissions has health benefits, example through lowering of urban air pollution concentrations. The session further throws light on requisites of the low carbon development, which is the most important, being the political thinking to implement plans and strategies resulting in less carbon intense economic development, resource efficiency, redirection of investment towards clean technologies. In a nutshell, closing climate change adaptation is not a one-time activity, as there is no one-size-fits-all approach to managing the climate change impacts. Thank you.